Robert KOOPMAN, good evening. So you were just talking about delocating and relocating. So I have just a few questions for you. So we often consider that outsourcing is responsible for growing unemployment. Do Western economies have to focus on relocating to create new jobs?
I think the part of the confusion about offshoring and outsourcing in terms of employment is that people forget that economies are very dynamic, and there are parts of economies that are growing very fast. Some parts of the economy are not growing fast. But at any given time, resources such as labor and capital are in relatively limited supply to meet those needs. So when an economy grows fast in certain sectors, and I would say sectors or firms like Facebook or Google, they need to attract resources. They need to attract people. They need to attract capital. And they have to get that from this limited set of resources. And that means that firms that are producing perhaps in manufacturing or less successful services will give up resources and naturally reduce production, reduce output, maybe even close down. There's a mistake that jobs going to Asia or to Mexico or even in other complicated supply chains that's driving employment in the United States, when really what's driving employment in countries like the United States are these macro demand issues, not the fact that the iPhone is made or assembled in China.
And so, what are the advantages of the American economy compared to China, for example?
Well, in the U.S., we have a very flexible labor force. And let me backtrack a little bit. One of the challenges for employment is if we have a flexible labor market, but sometimes workers don't have flexible skills, and so that makes it very difficult for them if they're the product that they're working on or the manufacturing industry that they're working in has offshored as capital resources have declined. It can be very difficult for them to find other jobs. But our labor market, not just the labor force, but the labor market's flexible. People can move from one place to the next. They can get new jobs. They can go and get retrained. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs. There's a lot of innovation. You think of things like Google and Facebook. If you have a great idea in a country like the United States, it's likely to get funded. I shouldn't say it's likely. It's more probable to get funded. And if you're successful, you'll grow fast, and you can easily attract the capital and labor that you need to grow. So that's one of the benefits. We have a lot of natural resources. We have generally well-developed laws and a legal framework, a relatively flexible regulatory environment. One of my counterparts on the panel was talking about the doing business scores from the World Bank, which is something I think more people ought to look at. What's fascinating there is a country like China actually doesn't do very well in the doing business scores, particularly compared to some of its competitors like Singapore and Hong Kong, whereas the U.S. does relatively well. And as my fellow panelists pointed out, Europe doesn't do that well. It's kind of in the middle of the pack.
Okay, Robert KOOPMAN, thank you.